Islam means submission. I have to put handcuffs and shackles on my feet and say, I am your slave, my Lord. My will is surrendered to you. Islam is only depression. Why? Because this world over here is just a pathway to the world, the life which awaits us. This has to be depressing. This is where we're supposed to lay our lives and die so that we can reappear in the actual life and live a very happy eternity. No angel can grab me from my shoulder and throw me in heaven, in hell. I'm going to say, I bowed before my father, my dear angel. Just show me the path. I know where to go. I know where I ended up. I know what I've been doing. I know what my forefathers drew me into. I know they are to be blamed, and that's okay. I am courageous enough to at least not let this thing go further beyond me. Do not become like your parents when you are a parent. Your parents have done a very bad job in making this kind of a youth out of this current youth. Your parents failed religiously. Your parents failed morally. Your parents failed politically. Your parents died, and nobody in masajid, there had to be alan made, announcements made that come for his janaza because you would not recognize him, so we would give you certain marks of recognition. Come, they died, nobody.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Imtisal Farooq, joined by Ali Zahid, Nofal, and Abu Bakr from IMS UK. Lately, it feels like something is always happening: global tensions, AI developments, and political shifts. There's a growing sense that events aren't just happening, they're accelerating beyond our ability to truly process them. So today isn't just about what's happening, but how we make sense of it, how we interpret, understand, and think about the world and affairs that surround us. To explore this more deeply, we are joined by Ziryab Haschmi, an accomplished analyst with an insight across a range of subjects. How are you feeling, sir, today?
Salam and Alhamdulillah. I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Good to know. To begin on a broader note, you seem to really understand how societies rise and fall. Where does that understanding come from? And how can an average person start noticing these patterns around them? Also, where do you think that Muslim world stands right now in this cycle? Do you think different countries are at different stages, or is this more of a global phase we're all going through?
Well, firstly, thank you for saying such kind things about me, and but I really think that I am merely a student in the process of learning. Everything is so fascinating for me, even as a growing up as a child. Everything started to fascinate me to a level that compelled me to go into certain details and studies of the historical events and everything going on around me at that time. And since then, I think it's a process of learning that continues. So all I can do is, being a student of political science and history, I tend to share my homework and classwork with people who are interested to know about these things based on the experience that I've had so far in my journey here. And to come to the second part of your question, yes, it is true that mankind um, has, I believe, a mechanism of learning as it grows, and then applying simultaneously all that mankind learns with experiences and also with exposures to certain conditions and circumstances that mankind has gone through in the past thousands of years that history has recorded so far. So when I believe when mankind tends to learn from its experiences and then records it in the shape of various subjects, then collectively mankind flourishes. So what we tend to do as um, an individual is to learn from the whole process that we mankind have collectively achieved so far by means of its very existence on this planet. Now, various subjects, of course, right now what you're keenly talking about is subject of current affairs and history, and adding a certain element of religious content to it. So I believe for the Muslim world, or anybody who belongs to any religion or faith or belief, the first thing we should do is to acknowledge what we collectively have achieved and lost, and then to learn from our experiences, and to observe keenly everything that goes on around us, and not ignore the minor details which actually um, constitute the factual side of it. In the process of fact finding, you go through every single reality that can be recorded, and then you put all these realities together to find certain facts, and then you put all facts together to seek the truth, and then when you apply that truth globally, it becomes universal truth. So I think this is how I would advise everybody to do, and this is how I have so far learned whatever I have, and I tend to convey that.
Well, you've just mentioned that humanity has recorded memory and then they've distributed it into different subjects. So if history is basically a humanity's collective memory, why do then individuals and societies not learn from it and they repeat their mistakes?
Yeah, it's it's a process. When we grow up, we tend to. There are two methods basically that we tend to use: either learning through someone else's experience, or through our own experiences. So the best thing to do is to blend these two together, and to gain the most out of both these mechanisms. You have to learn through your own experiences, but also you have to learn through other people's experiences. Sadly, you are right that as a whole, we see that we keep repeating our mistakes as nations, or as people of a state, or as people of faith. We tend to repeat our mistakes, but I think that's how we have developed ourselves, and then there are people who tend to remind us of these issues, and tend to bring us back on track to learn from other people's experiences or our forefathers' experiences, so that we don't repeat our mistakes. But this is, I think, it's very natural. We should try to learn, but this is how it is.
So to follow from Imtisal's question regarding the rise and fall of societies, I've heard a lot of analysts say over the past couple of years that the US empire as a whole is coming towards a decline or is already in a downward spiral. I wanted to ask, if do you agree with it or not? And if you do, then why is it that analysts and people all around the world can see that demise, can see that downfall, but the U.S. machinery, the U.S. government itself doesn't pay attention to it, and they keep pursuing foreign policies or different policies, domestic as well, that have been leading to their leading towards this downfall, such as being Israel's slave, perpetual warfare, and all the other policies that have been leading to its destruction. So why is it that normal people, normal analysts around the world are aware of this fact, but the U.S. government, the deep state, keep pursuing policies that are contributing to this instead of its own safety and security?
Well, I'm so sorry. There are certain things that I might say during this conversation which may appear to be a bit different from what you expect of me, or expect of someone with my impression that I have. So I'm gonna try to be as honest as possible, but without intending to offend anyone.
No problem at
And
all.
you would notice why. And you would notice why I'm saying that. I don't see things the way analysts tend to portray things in front of us. I believe that masses would always remain masses, and they would always remain under the greater wisdom of the intelligentsia that the collectively that run the globe. So, so when you say United States, you need to know that not talking about United States. You're talking about their intelligence. You're talking about the finest brains that run the country, not just the
Mm.
country, but the whole world. When you talk about the U.S., and then when you talk about them being slaves, I think it is more of an emotional way of looking at things. It is, when you're ruling the world, and when you're ruling the world for centuries, and then you establish certain norms which you do not want to recreate or reinvent when you know what combinations work. It's like a game of chess. There are certain openings, and then there are certain mid-game strategies, and then there are certain end-game strategies which grandmasters over the years have established to such a level, such a flawless level, I would say, that if you keep on repeating how they have established themselves as grandmasters, then you would also see that it works. So when you say, why is the United States not seeing things the way majority is, the majority is never intelligent enough to see through what goes on beyond curtains, beyond behind the curtains, and how they strategize for 50 to 100 years ahead, and they throw red herrings every now and then for us to, as decoys, to chase and think that, okay, so this is going on, and then certain hidden things come right into our faces and wake us up and make us smell reality reality from a different angle. So when you talk about the United States, you need to know that you're talking about the greatest superpower, no matter how much a Muslim sentiment hates to say that or admit that. But you have to admit, if you have a stronger opponent or somebody who's a better player in the game, you have to acknowledge that person's game, or that nation's game, or that agency's game, for that matter. So I would not want anybody who's listening to us to just fall for it. I would want everybody to go 10, 20 years uh, before these events, before the turn of these events. Notice how things tend to move, how they tend to play things in front of the mainstream media, and for people to look at, and how things go behind the scenes, and how these pieces come together to strategize things. You need to be very, very smart to counter the intelligence that these people have behind the visible. So for me, United States, yes, apparently it does seem to now be losing the grip on being the superpower, and this block that I keep referring to in my discussions, where China, Russia, and this our region is now trying to actually overthrow the power factor, but it's
Yeah.
going to still take a lot of time and effort for this bloc to do that. So I do not see United States hegemony collapsing in the next few years, at least.
So, do you think that the impression that we're getting is that Iran is in control of the war situation that they're in right now? They have control of the escalation ladder and everything, and it seems that Trump, with all his tweets, multiple tweets in a day, and the condition that the PR damage that they're trying to control, it seems as if they're scrambling the U.S. presidential team and everything. That's what it seems on the face of it. So by your answer, I think you're trying to suggest that even though it seems that on the surface it's not actually that, they're still in control. They have everything planned out, even to the extent of whatever's happening today or yesterday. So am I correct in assuming that's what you're trying to say?
Partly, yes. What I'm trying to say is that unless the unless the greater disasters that we keep on praying for as Muslims to finally appear, and the miracles of the Lord start to pour in from the heavens, unless those things actually happen, the signs of the end of time, so to speak, unless that happens, I think, when you have a lot of muscle on the bone, you can take a few blows and still survive. So they have enough muscle on the bone to go through this, if that turn of events that we are as Muslims hoping for, if that doesn't take place, then I don't think anyone, the collective bloc itself, cannot just bring the US down that easy.
Okay,
And
makes
yeah,
sense.
sorry, and coming to that side, what you're referring to, Donald Trump or JD Vance and the whole cabinet, they don't matter. They're just stooges of the game. It could be Biden, it could be Bush, it could be Trump, it could be anybody in the front. It's never them. It's never the
Yeah.
presidents. It's never the main cabinet which is running the show. It is
Hmm.
never them. It is never our Shabazz Sharif or Erdogan, or it's never them. There is a far greater set of minds which is actually running this whole scheme, and that's what's actually in battle. That is why when they want to use democracy, when they want to use capitalism, when they want to use wars or peace or all sorts of these sort of campaigns, they are just strategies that those minds use. We need to understand that. We need to
Okay.
know who runs the whole show, who funds the whole show, and who are the mere spectators who tend to talk a lot about that show. This is how I place us in the third zone, that we do tend to talk a lot about it because that's what
Mm.
they want. That's what they like it. They enjoy it. It's like
Yeah.
let me put it this way. There are certain people who do not want to come in front of the camera, but they're very good behind the camera. They're very good producers. They're very good editors. They're very good experts of the whole machinery and the engineering behind it. But they would never want to come in front of the camera. So when they have people who can act well, who can dance well, who can talk well, they say, okay, put those people. They look better. They talk better. I want them in front of the camera, but I know what to make them say, how to make them dance, how to make them move, because I know what the masses are looking for. So I'm going to put these actors in front, but I am behind the machine, so I know which actor to let speak and which actor not to appear. So this is how it's. I mean, I hope I'm trying to.
Yeah, it
I'm
makes
getting.
sense. Makes sense for sure.
So I think
Yes,
thank you very much. You've given us an insight into how you see things, and you've given this context in history and modern terms. Yes, you've said your opinion that the US hegemony will exist or will continue in the foreseeing future. That's fine. We understand that from a logical perspective as well. But historically, as you mentioned at the very start, that we humans learn from history and we make our own judgment and understanding of how events unfold, and that drives the understanding of humanity as a whole. And history is one thing to learn from. When we look at history, we look recorded history, that is, modern recorded history. We look at civilizations which rise and they rise to their peaks and then they fall. And that's the cycle that has continued in modern recorded history. We look at the Greeks, we look at the Romans, we look at the empire, which obviously we were part of, we look at the Chinese civilization, so on and so forth. So they've all seen their good days, and then eventually it comes to an end. And somewhere in between all of this history, we also have the Islamic Golden Age, which, for reference, wasn't just an ethnic civilization, it was an Islamic civilization, cutting beyond languages, ethnicities, and whatnot. So that kind of differentiates us as Muslims from the other civilizations that have seen their good days. But then we also had our bad days and everything fell apart. Now, as a Muslim, we believe quite firmly that we will have our resurgence, and our resurgence means that the modern powers which are in power will have to come down, whether we call it the US or the machine, as you said, not the faces, but the machine and the infrastructure. So eventually things will change, but as somebody who has studied a little bit of history, none of the civilizations which have gone down have actually come back up in the sense that they prevailed at the time. Like the Greeks have seen the peak, but you don't look at Greeks the way we used to 3,000 years ago. The same with the empire, the same with the Muslims. In fact, we've gone the other way around. How do you think that the Muslim civilization will rise again, which is going to be something very contrasting to how history teaches us things? Just a general question on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Why? Because the answer to that question would make more sense. See, firstly, I have a tendency of actually going to the very basic. I've been brought up in a very very different way. I always tend to first grasp the terminology that we use in our discussions, so that our basis is strong enough to establish a concept on top of it. So when we say Muslims, we need to know what a Muslim is by definition. And sorry to say, I have to again preemptively apologize if I end up offending anybody's sentiments. But by definition, we are not Muslims. By the definition of Quran, by the definition of Ahadith, by the definition of the Muslims of history, be it the family of the Prophet or be it the companions of the Prophet, we come nowhere close to the definition of Muslims. So what do? That's quite predicament that we have, that we call ourselves Muslims, we are not Muslims, then the eschatology of religion refers to certain Muslim nations, and if we are not those Muslim nations, then who is that particular nation that is being referred to? So I have to first come to the basic definition from where we begin, and I think the rest of the conversation is going to make sense afterwards. So all the Muslims that are mentioned in the end of times, or the signs of end of times in the religious content, be it of the Judaic eschatology or Christian or Muslim eschatology, when the term Muslim is mentioned, it is of the time when the whole Dore Fitn, the period of Fitn ends, then Muslims as Haqq show themselves and appear and declare Haqq. Before that, there is a very dark period that Ahadith refer to, which is called Dore Fitn. Fitn is the actual collective ambiguity which will cover Islam or Muslims or the Haqq, the truth, to such a level that the Prophet ﷺ says that you will not be able to see through them. And when the Prophet ﷺ says something, God says something, and they mean something when they say something. So when we put an ambiguous layer of fitn in front of a mirror and still call ourselves Muslims, then we're lying to ourselves, because then we're not believing in the text of the Prophet ﷺ and still calling ourselves Muslims when the Prophet never referred to this door as door of Islam. It was referred as Dore Fitn, the period, the era of Fitn. So when we are at the era of fitn, we have to recognize that. I have a terrible headache. I have a disease. It's called cluster headache. So if I know that I have a disease, I would never call myself fit, fully fit, or compare myself with a person who does not have a headache. I have to be honest about the disease that I have, or the disorder, or the issues that I have. If I manage to fix them, then I can say, now I'm fixed, now I have recovered, now I'm good, now I can be compared to a guy who does not have a headache. But I do. So likewise, if I am not a Muslim by practice, by virtues, then whatever I may be, but I'm not a Muslim by virtues, and I'm not a Muslim by practice, and this is not a Muslim nation that we are living with or as, be it Pakistan or Sudan or Saudi Arabia or Iran or whomsoever. When we're not by definition the Muslim of the Quran, then we should not apply any foresight mentioned in the eschatology of Islam or any religion as them, or as those Muslims being referred to as us. No, not us. Once this Armageddon takes place, when the Malhamatul Kubra takes place and Muslims die, 1/3 of the Muslims die, and then there are certain 1/3 that are left victorious, then they come, then Haqq will prevail, when the people from Khorasan will come, and Imam Mahdi al-Islam will come, and Isa al-Islam will come. That is when you can say Muslims. That is the revival of the Muslim era that the book talks about, that the Ahadith talk about. This period is not the revival of Islamic era or Muslim era. This is the precursor. We are the precursors. We are the last period of the trash zone of the period of fitn. We would die and go wherever, but we are not dying as the Muslims and mentioned in the book. So my difference of opinion originates from all your present scholarship, that why do you keep referring to yourselves as some sort of Jannati Muslims? You're not Jannati Muslims by definition. At least let's be honest to ourselves. It is not a bad thing to know that I am blind or deaf or mute. It is not a bad thing. It is something that I am or that I have. I should admit that and then work accordingly. So let's not apply any of these things on ourselves and analyze history totally unbiased, totally unprejudiced, as a non-existent person from within this humanity, so that we have no false hope of any kind that maybe it is our people that God is referring to, or no, it is not. It is Bani Israel and Bani Ismail deviated from their religion fighting among each other. And once this disaster takes place, then Bani Israel brings Isa alayhi salam, the actual Bani Israel, and Bani Ismail will bring Mahdi alayhi salam. Then Bani Israel and Bani Ismail will come and revive Islam. And that is a period of 14 to 1500 years from the demise of the Prophet, that the hadiths say that it will take 1500 years for Islam to then recover and revive. So these 1500 years are technically trash fitan period. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but my forefathers and grandfathers and their grandfathers and me and even probably my children are a part of that dore fitan. So I don't like when people refer to themselves as Muslims and then tend to think that if Muslim revival will take place. No, it is just two people fight. It's like a cricket match. You're watching Pakistan play India, and then you're like, okay, I'm banking on Pakistan. But it's not going to take Pakistani team into heaven. It's just going to probably give them a trophy or some worldly gain. Or if India wins, then nothing's going bad is going to happen. It's just that they're going to yell at us, or we're going to feel sad for a day or two. That's it. It's like a cricket match going on. No sentiments, no emotions of the sacred level attached. Watch these things as you grow. Watch these things as you move. Pass it on to your children. Let them know that if they end up meeting the Mahdi alayhi salam, meeting Isa alayhi salam, then they should at least be prepared to join the kafala, the caravan of Haqq. We are not a part of that. So let's first establish these grounds to very neutrally look at the situation. Then immediately you will get the answer to the questions that you have.
Sure, thank you, sir. I think that's and thank you for putting your perspective first, because we subconsciously do understand that, you know, when we refer to us as Muslims, in fact we're not, we're just Muslims in name. So I think the question of a revival can't actually exist until we become Muslims in the first place. So I think that that's understood. But this
Whoever that
theme
will
will
be, those lucky people would be, then they would be them, not us.
indeed. So I think continuing with that sort of predicament, unfortunately, that we have, that we're just Muslims in name, we see ourselves on the receiving end of world powers, US being the one at the moment. And of course, right now, the talk of the town is what's happening in Iran. So I think we'll just take our discussion towards the sort of current circumstances in Iran and what's
Current
happening. And
affairs without the sacred element of it.
correct. I think that's the thesis. It's the political side of it rather than the religious side of it. So, Brother Ali, you can start with Iran.
Yeah. So, in context of what the discussion has been going on, I want to ask that we are living in a Dore Fitan, and you said that it's not a pure definition of a Jannati Muslim. We are, according to you. So, if we put that archetype of the exact Jannati Muslim, let's say if psychology of Sahaba Karam is here, how would be calling the shots in the current situation in context of Iran US war or the issue of Gaza and Israel?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
Would you be able to put this question on air? Answer.
We're all for it, Ziryab bhai. We're all for it. That's what we're here for.
No, I mean because the consequences may be disastrous.
Bismillah. We'll see.
Well, they would first slit our throats, the so-called Muslim throats. They would take over the governments, be it Pakistan or Iran or Saudi Arabia. They would conquer Makkah. The Fatah Makkah concept is the Sunnah of the Prophet. We cannot perform Hajj, we cannot perform Jummah, we cannot have Eid until we conquer Makkah by the Prophet's Sunnah and Seerah. On the 8th of Hijri, he conquers Makkah and then performs his Hajj. Before the first revelation, so to speak, the first revelation, he had 20 Hajjs to his name, 20 Hajj he had performed before he was revealed the first surah, that is Surah Fatiha to be exact. Before the first revelation, he had 20 Hajjs, but now when we look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, it's only one Hajj. Why? Because the only Hajj that applies after Fatah Makkah, the 8th of Hijri, activity, the conquering of Makkah and putting Islam as the religion, and a charter of Islam recognized, registered on the 8th of Hijri, the 8th year of Hijri, and then on the 10th year of Hijri, he performs his final and only Hajj, and then on the 11th he departs. This is the sequence of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, I don't know how, on what basis do your or my fathers think that they've been performing Hajjs. Hajj do not apply until Makkah itself has Islam. And I'm sorry to say, your Makkah does not have Islam. And if Makkah does not have Islam, Medina does not have Islam. If Makkah and Medina do not have Islam, then Pakistan does not have Islam, Iran does not have Islam. Whatever they may have, it is not the Islam of the Prophet. So when you say, what would Sahabas do, Ridwanullahi alayhim, what would they have done? They would have started marching towards Makkah, and they would have conquered Makkah. They would have wiped all those so-called idols that are being worshipped by the names of the kings and their dynasty, and they would have reinstated Islam. And after that, they would have considered, they might have considered thinking about what to do with Iran or Pakistan or the rest of the so-called Muslims. And then after having done with the Muslims, after having wiped out nations and nations of Islam, and once they had conquered them and applied the whole rule of Islam and the Riyasat-e-Madina, and then the Jumas would have been reinstated, then Namaz-e-Eidain would have been reinstated, and then they would bother about the non-Muslims. Why? Because after that only you are allowed to go beyond borders to spread Islam. That is the sunnah of the Prophet, the seerah of the Prophet, the commandment of the Prophet, which is the commandment of the Lord in turn. So this is how they would have done. This is what they would have done, regardless of what's going on currently, what munafiq of which country is fighting which munafiq of which religion. They would not have bothered. Why? Because Netanyahu or Israel is a munafiq of Judaism, which by Quran is being the munafiq of the Quran. Where Donald Trump is a munafiq of Christianity, which by definition of Islam is a munafiq of Islam, because Christianity in Islam is Islam, Judaism in Islam is Islam, and all the rest of the Muslims, be it Iran or Pakistan or whatsoever, are the munafiqeen of Islam by definition of among each other. That Sahaba would have said, we're not bothered about the munafiqeen, I'm sorry, currently we want to first conquer Makkah and state Islam, and then we'll look at the munafiqeen, and then we'll look at the mushrikeen. So this is exactly what I believe Sahaba would have done, Rizwanullahi alayhim.
So for people who've heard this take of yours for the first time, Ziryab, they might get freaked out a little bit, thinking that, okay, so we've been declared munafiqs and sometimes even non-Muslims in some situations. So the natural question they would have is, what if we by heart are trying to do the good that we can in this world, trying to stand up for what's right and the limited capacity that they have? So the natural question would then be, whatever we've done throughout our lives or whatever we're trying to do has just gone to waste then? Is there no way for us to get forgiven and get to Jannah then?
That is my second pain about Islamic discussions currently going on. Everybody is selfishly, keenly craving for Jannah. Quran never says crave for Jannah. True. Quran never says always try and pray for Jannah. Quran says bow before me, follow me, follow the Prophet, follow the Ulil Amr. That's the three things that you're supposed to follow. It never says, there is not even a fourth clause that says, and go for Jannah, and crave for Jannah, and ask for Jannah. No. Yeah. It says, Atiullahi wa Atiur Rasul, the two things, and atat, not of the Ulil Amr, but follow the Ulil Amr if he follows the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That are the three things. Now, where is the Atiullah part? Where is the Atiur Rasul part? Where is the Ulil Amr part? Nowhere, sir. Then why can we even expect Jannah? Jannah is for those who are on this path, who are on the path of the Atiullah, Atiur Rasul, Ulil Amr, because Quran says, I will on the day of judgment, I will lift you by the names of your imams. And when they will say, okay, who is our imam? We don't know who our imam is. Imam Mahdi was supposed to come way before way after our deaths, or after the deaths of my father or his father. Then
Yeah.
on which name would my father be lifted? Oh, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
we don't know, because the imam of the masjid maybe, or the imam of the guy we have had the bath under, or no, maybe imam is the book, or maybe we don't even know what imam is. Imam is the ulul amr, and if you can't find the ulul amr, it means you are you do not have the lens of the hidayah to know who the ulul amr is. Then re-establish the system and let God's hidayah come, and then automatically the hidayah will enlighten the ulul amr among you, and he will rise. And that is when Jannah and these sort of concepts come into play. Before that, there is no Jannah. The first and foremost thing is to reinstate Islam. And I'm sorry when you said that people would have been offended by what I said. If a fact can offend people, then those people need to reconsider themselves, calling them from any angle educated people, because any fact that enlightens me actually strengthens me. It actually gives me a morale boost if I find out that I was wrong and I found out something which was totally different, but a fact. It revives me. It brings life into me, and it gives me a target. It gives me an ambition, an aspiration, an inspiration to then, okay, then just like Bahu said, Jo dam ghafil, so dam kafir. Whatever time that you spent in your ghaflat, in your blindness, is a time spent in kufr. So the minute you get
Hmm.
enlightened by anybody's or Quran's reference, then that is when your iman starts. It means now you have refreshed. Now you have time. Now you are, according to Surah Shura, now on the day if you complete your imam, on the day if you're on the journey to reinstate Islam, you're good. Jannah is
Absolutely.
something very late. Jannah is a very hard earned place. Jannah is not for everybody. The Prophet ﷺ said, 1 out of 1,000 will go to Jannah. Then let's count ourselves in this conversation. We're not even
Yeah.
1,000. Let's first fit 1,000 people in a Zoom session and then
Hmm.
say, in this Zoom session, at least one is going into Jannah. But right now, we're only 5 people. We're not going to Jannah. We're missing out on 995 people to actually think that one of us may be able to go to Jannah.
Understood.
Completely correct. Wow. So, I want to go back to the last question. Basically, you answered that we have to establish Islam in Makkah first. Being, it's the era where the nationalism is quite predominant, and if if per se somebody is going against the government of Pakistan, and his aim is to establish Islam in Mecca as well as in Pakistan. So, are you saying that somebody has to do, according to current ulama or definition, that we have to do Khurooj, or are you trying to say that we have to make and prepare um, the think tank and the people, get them in the power as per the Sahil um, uh, strategy, to get a lobby who can exert such a power that can do the things at the global level? Obviously, they will have some effects at the local level as well. So, what is your understanding? Is it that current Khurooj we have to do somehow, or is it just a slow and steady lobbyist approach you would recommend?
Well, firstly, the term Khurooj does not apply on Pakistan. The term Khurooj does not apply on even Saudi Arabia, because Khurooj is a term of an Islamic system. If there is an Islamic system to begin with, only then Khurooj applies. If there is no Islamic system by definition, then it is not Khurooj. It may be a rebellion, a mutiny, or whatever you want to call it, but it is not Khurooj by the definition of the term Khurooj. There is no Islamic state currently on this planet, and there will not be any Islamic state according to the eschatology of Islam. See, you and I are very different. Let me first try to bring us both together on the same frequency. If I tell you today that I have a friend's father and he's got a third or fourth stage cancer. And the doctors of everywhere, the most experts of all oncology have said that this patient is not going to survive for more than 3 months. And I come to you on this Zoom session and I say, let's find a way to bring him back to life, and let's take him to 5 years instead of 6 months. Let's take him to down to 10 years. So it would be very highly optimistic. It will be very positive, but it will not be possible. Okay, yes, a miracle can happen, and God bestows shifa. God bestows marz, so He bestows shifa. He can. But if
Yeah.
the patient dies after 6 months, you cannot say that, oh my God, what has God done to him? It was obvious he had a disease and he ended up dying. So if when I say that this Dore Fitn is mentioned, my brothers and sisters, you need to understand, if my name was mentioned in Mishkat Sharif, if my name was mentioned in Bihar al-Anwar or Usul Kafi or Musnad Ahmad, I would have said, brothers, see, my name is there. Let's do something about it. We do not see, this is a dark period. You're not seeing anything in the foretold stories of the Prophet ﷺ. I don't know why Muslims do not believe in their Prophet, why Muslims do not believe in the words of the Prophet. I would bury my children, I would burn them alive on the words of my Prophet. I would die for my Prophet. If my Prophet says Dawr Fitn will continue, I would never want to think that, oh no, there is a tawakkul that I will still be able to do, because I'd be going against my teachings, the teachings of the very religion that teaches us tawakkul. Then the Prophet says Dawr Fitn will continue, Dawr Fitn will continue. No Khurooj of any sort will take place. No Makkah will be conquered again. There will be a Dawr Fitn, and then hell will break loose, and then Armageddon will take place, and then Mahdi will come. If my Prophet had not said that, you and I would now not only be talking like this, I would have turned the cameras off, and I would have said, you know what, you look like intelligent minds. Let's bring our minds together and let's strategize and let's conquer Makkah. But this is not mentioned in the. Unfortunately, our religion foretold us that there is no Ziryab, no Sahil, nobody conquers Makkah in the end of times, and then all of a sudden Islam comes, and then things start to happen for Muslims. No, I have to tell you certain things that I know. It's like a story. You keep telling me that in the Shawshank Redemption, I want Morgan Freeman to also get free. He does not get free. I've seen the movie. He keeps getting rejected of his bail. It's a scene movie. The script is there. The script is done. The movie is done and dusted. Why do you keep telling me that there is a chance that Morgan Freeman can get free from that? And he will not. I've seen that movie. Just like the eschatology of Islam says, Makkah will not be conquered again until Mahdi will come from Khurasan and conquer Makkah, and there where he will declare Islam again, and Haqq is Haqqad ja'akumul haqq min rabbikum. He would say that, and Isa alayhi salam will join him, and he will tell him that, okay, now you offer prayer. So since you are the Imam now, this is how prophets do. Prophets appoint Imams, just like our Prophet ﷺ said, Man kuntu Mawla fa Aliyun Mawla. Isa alayhi salam will say, Mahdi, you will start the prayer. This is how prophets transfer the ulil amr imamat to the imams. So we can only wait. We can train our children that this is what will go on. These are how things will work for the Muslims. This is how you can pave the way. This is how you can teach. Even the Prophet says at the time of Dajjal, even run to the mountains because you will not be able to face him. Why do I say no? I'm going to build a weapon and I'm going to fight Dajjal. No. Isa al-Islam will kill the Dajjal. Ziryab is not mentioned killing the Dajjal. Ziryab is not mentioned running the Malhamatul Kubra. Ziryab is not mentioned in any second conquer of Makkah. I hope you get my point. It gets kind of annoying when we've seen a movie and we keep trying to change the script after the movie has been played.
So we really don't know that, how many years are still there to left for the Imam Mahdi to come. So what's our role here? Like, are you saying that we know the eschatology is there, we know these things are going to happen, but to me it feels like, the Sunni Barelvi sort of a narrative who say that, political Islam, we don't need to struggle politically, we just do the tazkiyah and nafs by doing namaz, roza, hajj and zakat, and we'll just wait for Imam Mahdi to come. So Are you on? Are you agreeing to that narrative, or you saying that we have to follow Islam, whatever we can do, but we won't be able to succeed, but we can continue trying and establish that precursor before Imam Mahdi comes?
The difference between this Barelvi concept, this Sufi concept that is prevalently very common in people, and what I'm trying to say is actually we are worlds apart, and yet we have a tiny little common thread. I'll tell you how we are, where we're common, and I'll tell you how we are worlds apart. Barelvis still think that they're going to heaven. They still believe that their
Yeah.
ulama are going to heaven. I believe they're destined, doomed. They're born to go
Allah.
to hell. And I'm not saying that. I have no right to say that. Quran says that. I can show you verses where Quran says that. That whoever deviates from the path of the Prophet, whoever deviates from the path of the Lord, whoever deviates from not establishing the concept of Islam is not among us, and will fiha khalidun, ashabul jahim, and fiha khalidun. Now please, and try to understand. Let me tell you, there's a verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and see, I'm not saying these things. This is a painful thing for me to say, that my forefathers and your forefathers lost. They lost the battle of life. They lost the battle of Islam despite being born in an Islamic household. Now, please understand. Quran. Let's open Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يشاقق الرسول من بعد ما تبين له الهدى. Whoever yushaks, whoever shaku, whoever opposes the Prophet after haq being apparent in front of that person, min ba'di ma tabayyana lahul huda, it's that once haq is there and then you go against the Prophet. It's like you saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and not going by the seerah of the Prophet. It means you are on the other path, which is the yushak. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى. This is where we and you and I are common. This is where my parents and your parents are common. This is where Pakistan, Iran are common. This is where Saudi Arabia and us. We are all on the yushak side. Please understand this. Now the rest, وَيَتَّبِي غَيْرَ السَّبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and they follow the path which is not of the mu'minin. Now I would refer, who is mu'minin? You know, I know the people that you were referring to, the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the family of the Prophet ﷺ. They were that is the path of Sabil al-Mu'minin. وَيَتَّبِي غَيْرَ السَّبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and they followed the path which was not of the mu'minin. نَوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى. So God turns them to that way. Wherever they come from, God sends them in that direction. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Ziryab
Allah.
Haschmi does not say that. Xaryab Haschmi has to. There are two ways of looking at the interpretation of Quran. I want everybody through your medium to know, be it Quran or Bible. There are two ways. One is called exegesis and the other is called eisegesis. Exegesis is when you draw meanings out of the ayah of the scriptures the way it is mentioned allegorically. You get the parables of mentioned in the Quran, and then you drive something out of Quran. That is called the tafsir, coming in an exegesis way. And then there is an eisegesis. Barelvis have an eisegesis view, just like Javed Ahmad Ghamdi Sahib has an eisegesis view, just like the Tasawwuf people have an eisegesis view. What is eisegesis? When you want your meanings to go in the direction that the ayah may appear to be what you intend it to be. That's called eisegesis. There's exegesis and then there's eisegesis. Exa in Greek means exit, and eisa in Greek means to enter, for something coming from outside into inside. So exegesis is when you derive meanings out of an ayah. I'm repeating the ayah again. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. How can an eisegesis Barelvi derive heaven out of that? I fail to understand. There is only hell mentioned, and Sa'at Masira means what a dark end that is. That dark end is about some people. Quran says, I will burn people and they will burn, their skins will burn, we will give them more. Which people are they talking about? When the Prophet ﷺ goes on Miraj, God shows them people burning it. Which people are those? It is us, my friend,
Mhm.
not the Sahaba, Nauzubillah, not the family of the Prophet, Nauzubillah. It is the people after those people, not the people of Mahdi al Islam's Lashkar, not the people of Isa al Islam's Lashkar. Then where do these people come with? From some other planet? No, it is those 1500 years of people like you, like me, like my father and their father and their fathers. These 1500 years of the trash period are the Nuslahi Jahannam who want to Yushakikir Rasula. Min ba'di ma tabayyana lahul huda. This is what I'm trying to tell you. But we still have this fool's garden of Eden garden, rather. Quran says no. If you're on yattabi ghayri sabil al-mu'minina, you're not going to heaven. I'm sorry to break these news to you, but this is Quran. This news has been published 1400 years ago and is being published every year and it is placed in every single household. I don't know why people don't read that.
Thank you so much, sir. You've surely exposed the deeper tensions between the surface, but I think I really want to sample Iran here. And in Iran's recent leadership transition during the
Let's talk
conflict.
about something which is a lot meaningless but a lot more material, a lot more pragmatic, a lot more visible, because the more you indulge into the depths of discussion, the darker it gets, because the devil lies in the details. And I'm sorry, but these details, your clerics, your religious scholars, your teachers are not able, they cannot afford to say this. This is why I said, would you be able to air that answer? This is why I gave you a preemptive warning that people are going to get hurt by certain sentiments, are going to get hurt when you bring me on IMS. I really admire you people. I've heard a lot about IMS and I have very, very well wishes for you. And I've never had the privilege to talk to you people before. I've always wanted to, but I knew even in the last few days when I was being told that IMS team is getting in touch, I said, do they really want a person like me there? They're going to hate me afterwards. They're not going to like me. They're going to say, this guy is very aggressive. I'm sorry, but Quran is very, very explicit. So let's talk about not Quran. Let's talk about not Muslims. Let's talk about the global overview. Let's talk about nations fighting among each other and what we can play as roles as ourselves as the mere beings we are of that 1500 period before Mahdi al-Islam and Isa al-Islam. Please.
Ziryab, just a clarification here. You don't have to worry about what we can air or what not, but we'll air everything, inshallah. I personally knew what we were getting into. We were actually expecting it. I was expecting, and I actually wanted to hear it because there's not a lot of conversation or podcasts from you in the English language where people actually get to listen to these points of views and understandings of yours. Even right here, I have a chat open of a few people who are listening to you right now, and their minds are being blown by the understanding that you're giving them, because this angle is something that they've never heard before. And that is the reason that I had to ask a couple of follow-up questions, even though I knew what the answers were, because I've heard you say or talk about this before. But I had to ask it for their sakes, because the questions were arising in their mind. So it's absolutely great that you followed up with everything that you did. It's necessary for us to realize all of this, including the pragmatic things, the practical things about the war and everything. But this side is also necessary. There's no way we can detach the two. So please don't worry about the answers that you're giving. Everything will be aired, inshallah, the way you have said it. And we're all ears for it. We're here for it.
I thank you. I thank you. And it's just that airing that may bring people of your IMS into any sort of trouble, because see, look at me. I've got gray hair. I've lived more than half of my life. I'm willing to die for these words. I'm willing to, because see, I know I'm not ending up in heaven, because the picture that Quran draws of the people of the heaven, I am miles, light years away from that. So I know I'm not going to make it unless God bestows some sort of a very special miracle for me of that. Okay, I want him in heaven, and certain the moment of shahada appears before me, and I have the same courage and intention to leap onto it and take that leap. But until then, that happens. I'm okay with that. As long as I know where I'm going, no angel can grab me from my shoulder and throw me in hell. I'm going to say, you bowed before my father, my dear angel. Just show me the path. I know where to go. I know where I ended up. I know what I've been doing. I know what my forefathers drew me into. I know they are to be blamed, and that's okay. I am courageous enough to at least not let this thing go further beyond me. So I have conveyed the right message to my next generations, and they, if they manage to survive and see the end of times where Mahdi comes in and takes over, they may be able to join with the caravan and save themselves, and maybe that sadqa jariya might get to me somehow, or my forefathers, and probably give them some sort of a cushion in the from the fire that they are destined to.
Sir, we really want to go into the sharp focus for Iran because they've had their recent
Yes, please.
leadership transition. And there are questions about the legitimacy and how people are reacting in very different ways. What do you think this is revealing about the level of political and intellectual clarity in the Muslim world today? Also, do you see these movements as genuinely transformative, or are they just repeating the same patterns you've been discussing?
I always say that if peace talks actually transform into a long-lasting peace, or if we go back in time when this Iran-Israel conflict had not started, every Muslim state, which was a non-Shia Muslim state, was calling Iran Ghali, people who ghuluv, who go overboard in the muhabbat, in the hub of Ali. They are called, the Sunni states refer to them as ghali, somebody who is exaggerates and steps out of the bounds of religion. And then they have ahadith to support that, to call Irans and Iranis people who ghaluf. Now all of a sudden, when there is a greater evil fighting them, all the Muslim states are saying, "Oh my God, look at Khamenei. He was the right man. He attained shahada. He did this. He did that." If you really believed in Iran being on the right path, on the yattabi غير سبيل المؤمنين and opposite path, on the سبيل المؤمنين path, then why wouldn't people migrate to Iran and join them in the battle? I'm talking about the scholars and the whole scholarship and the religious scholarship also, not just the political scholarship with faith, but the religious, hardcore religious scholarship. Nobody's going to Iran. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's attaining Shahada because they know that this is too ambiguous to be called Shahada. So let's bring one thing into play, that Iran's current status, Iran's current moves and strategy are very, very globally, materially, worldly strategies of a battle that any country would have gone through. This is why when it attacks Arab countries or Muslim countries, there is no fear of any sort that he is killing people, or he might kill people in collateral who will recite kalama shahada when they die. He has no fear. They have no fear. Why? Because their battle is not non-sacred battle. It is a battle of revenge, that their great supreme leader has been murdered in cold blood, and now what they want to do is take revenge from Netanyahu or Donald Trump or whomsoever. It's more of a battle for supremacy more than anything else. Today, if Iran conquers Israel, it's going to claim its supremacy, and that's it. Does that Islam, is that Islam? Does that denote as Islam? No, it doesn't. So these wars are very, very worldly wars. I evaluate them as such. Pakistan, China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Malaysia, Azerbaijan, and very soon Qatar joining us, and certain Arab states also now showing colors that they would probably join this band, because the shift of power is quite inevitable, that China and Russia will be the future superpowers, and if not in the near future, then at least in the distant future, that they will take charge of this area, and the currency, and oil, and all sorts of resources, because they have a lot of underground resources. This is a very beautiful time for historians of the current era, that they will write that how certain things shifted, and certain powers shifted. And I like Iran's strategy, because the brains behind Iran right now is Russia and China, and the grounds that it's is establishing is self-defense. So it has all the right cards. It's got Pakistan offering them nuclear technology since 2004, and probably they even have it since 2004, because you might recall Dr. A.Q. Khan was indicted on the basis of selling nuclear technology to three countries: North Korea, Libya, and Iran. And North Korea still claims that it has nuclear technology since then. Iran also is under a lot of uh, stress because of this news that broke in 2004 and the sanctions. And Libya was, although invaded, and there was nothing of such sort found there, because I cannot say certain things on air, but I know why Libya just did not have those nuclear weapons that the US was looking for when they invaded Libya, because I know how these things work, and I know where the Libyan nuclear technology was placed when this whole contract was taking place. So yeah, Iran is probably strategically at this moment overpowering the Israeli stance, not the US stance, but the Israeli stance, because US is playing very clever. It is putting its own pieces on the board, pieces like MBS, Saudi Arabia, pieces like Pakistan, pieces like Turkey now. So it is more of a blend of powers now. United States still wants its certain control in the region, and yet be able to let go of certain things so that a certain balance can be maintained in the region, and yet its existence is not totally wiped out from the Arab side and our region. So Iran's stance is very clear. Iran is doing very good with the brains behind it of Putin and China, and the help of Pakistan. And you cannot deny the significance of Pakistan at the moment. Whenever I say this, I don't know why the followers of PTI tend to have this bias and blind themselves with this. You need to understand that if Pakistan, be it with Imran Khan, when Abhinandan came into Pakistan, the episode of Abhinandan, it was Pakistan army again. It was the state again, Imran Khan's decision that the people acknowledged that it was a good decision, and he let go of the pilot. He gave him a clean path, sent him back, and gained his status in the region, and that brought Imran Khan in the good books, not only of the Western world, but also within the Islamic world. That it's a good gesture that Imran Khan has done. So when you acknowledge certain things of his era, then you have to also acknowledge certain things of Shahbaz Sharif's era or Asim Munir's era, and you have to say, yeah, they're doing good. They're actually at Pakistan is at this moment historically at the highest peak, being placed by this current situation that Pakistan has never seen before, even at the time of Ayub or at the time of Zia or at the time of Musharraf. Pakistan had never achieved such a distinction in terms of the of being placed in the power corridor. You have to look at the history of Pakistan with a very neutral lens, and then place Pakistan and Iran and this whole region. Ideally, this is the best time that we are witnessing, regardless of the holy and sacred side of it, because there is no such. Uh,
Mhm.
Globally, politically, Pakistan, Iran, China, and Russia are currently showing more signs of success than their opponents.
Speaking on Pakistan, Ziryab, the question that I had was, people have been trying to paint Pakistan's role as a mediator these days somehow in the light of Islam, giving it an Islamic paintbrush, that we have been acting as a mediator, a big brother, or we have been trying to fulfill some kind of Islamic responsibility by helping people come, the two warring parties come together. My contention with that would be is, first of all, how and why are people doing this when my brother is being attacked and I'm the one who's trying to mediate between my brother and the aggressor, whereas I should have been on my brother's side and facing the enemy head on, shouldn't have I? So how and why are people trying to paint the mediation role of Pakistan in some way as an Islamic responsibility that Pakistan has fulfilled? And with the follow-up for this is, if you were the one, let's say General Asim Munir or General Ziryab Hashmi, Field Marshal Ziryab Hashmi, how would have you wanted Pakistan to proceed in the future? What would have been the actions that you would have been taking, and what do you think in reality is actually going to end up happening?
Okay, so now there are two sides of this question. The second
Yeah.
side, where you just hypothetically placed me as a field marshal, I would come to that after the first side. I believe if my brother gets into a fight with an outsider, I would not say, okay, you know what, you hit my brother, I'm gonna beat you. No, I'm not gonna do that. I've never done that. I would first evaluate if my brother is wrong. I'm gonna say to him, you need to apologize. And if you're still adamant, you need to face the consequences. I'm going to be your brother. I'm going to face the blows with you. I'm going to take the hits because I'm your brother. But you have to know that you're on the wrong side. So either you apologize or you admit that you are doing something which is against morality. So I would always, and I have always first evaluated before getting into any quarrel that we've been having over the past so many years. We've had plenty. I tell you, you can ask Sahil that Sahil has been into plenty of things. And I have always said, you have to first have a Supreme Court of the justice of Supreme Court inside your head called a wisdom, shaur, that will first bring a light of justice and Bilqist. If Bilqist is not installed in our systems, even if it goes against our parents, the Quran, the ayat of the Quran says, but the standards of Bilqist have to be instated, even if it goes against your parents and your Aqrabin, then still you have to be Allah's witness and instate Bilqist. So for me, if Iran is in a fight with Israel, or even while it was in a state of war with the Syrian rebels.
Hmm.
Even at that time, when people were opposing Iran, I would say, why are you opposing Iran? Just because a Shia is fighting a Sunni and you're calling Shia is wrong, you have no idea what this whole fight is all about. It was Donald Trump's favored people trying to come into power and trying to topple Bashar al-Assad, and Russia and China and Iran were trying to reinforce Bashar al-Assad, and they failed. And in the process, certain collateral took place. Some people died on this side, some people died on that side, but foolish people started saying Shias were killing Sunnis, and hence Shias are kafir, na'uzubillah. Now, this is what they were saying. And I even faced that wrath when there was a similar sort of a discussion, and they brought this up, and I said, "You have no idea. You do not read, you do not study, and then you come up with some sort of stereotyping and prejudice that I do not like. I would not prefer." So for me, Iran's fight with Israel needs to be evaluated. That who is on the right side and who's on the wrong side. Israel, from the very birth of it, is illegitimate, is illegal. It is an illegal occupation, just like we say illegally occupied Kashmir, Indian illegally occupied Kashmir. We have to
Hmm.
say the Israeli illegally occupied Palestine. This is why Pakistan does not accept Israel as a state. This is the principal stance. This is why Pakistan's passport does not allow a visa, an entry into Israel. Why? Because we claim as Pakistanis that it is an illegally occupied Palestine that they want to term as Israel. So to
Yeah.
the state which is by birth on a foundation which I principally, or the nation, or the most of the nations principally disapprove of, then their battle becomes invalid. So anything their battle with, let's say, if this when they were supporting Ukraine in the battle of Russia and Ukraine, their support, they were sending so-called jihadis trained in Israel,
Yeah.
deployed in Ukraine to fight against Russia. Even at that time, I said, imagine Israelis are training jihadis. They are using the terms jihadis because they
Hmm.
think there's some sort of a sacred war going on. But Israel supporting Ukraine was enough of a sign for me to say that Russia is on the right side, because this a clear evil of Israel was fighting in Ukraine's favor. So that when clear evil shows, then whatever munafiq or whatever lesser evil comes in front of it, you have to take side of the lesser evil. That this is a moral ground that I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
you have to still build these things on the meter of justice, on the standards of justice and Bilqist. So you have to see if Iran is on the 168 or 70 odd children murdered by the first attack from which this whole war erupted. This is the bone of contention. This is where this whole starts from. Before that, Hezbollah being funded by Iran, Yemen being funded by Iran, or anything, Hamas, you can say that these are speculations which can actually lead us to various discussions that we can have all day, all night, and we can
Yeah.
probably even have even amount of material on both sides. But
Yeah.
here, Iran was targeted, and Iran has every right of self-defense. This is why in the previous question, they are using self-defense, and once they use self-defense, then they stand on the offense. Then they say, now it is us who will end the war, because it is never us who started it. So now Iran has the upper hand. If I were the field marshal, or if current field marshal status stands, I say he is 100% right, and he would always make better decisions than me, because he is a trained militant. He grew up as a general, as a militant. He knows the intricacies of battlefield. He knows what the assets of the military they have, and the state secrets and the state policies they have. All I can, as a student of political science, what I can tell you is that Pakistan is a nuclear power, the only Muslim nuclear power declared on paper. Although I believe Pakistan is sharing,
Mm.
and Pakistan is also nuclear. This is where the confusion takes place. That Pakistan is the source of strengthening these Muslim nations, and all of a sudden, these Muslim nations appear to be in a war against each other. They are not in a war against each other. If Iran throws rockets at Aramco in Saudi Arabia, it is not fighting Saudi Arabia. If or the U.S. bases in Qatar or UAE, it is not fighting UAE. If they, however, retaliate,
Mm.
then it is war. Then you can say that then the counter threat from UAE will trigger a war, that where your Bill Gates standard will come into play. At the moment, whatever Iran is doing in its self-defense, it is protecting itself. Why? Because there are very few intercontinental ballistic missiles that Iran has. Although they have them by means of the support from Pakistan, Russia, and China, they have these ICBMs. But still, for Iran to shoot ICBMs directly to the United States is difficult. So what it's doing, it's using Pakistan as its nuclear partner to gain some muscle in the region and say, okay, even if we die in the blaze of glory. We will do certain things here in the region. If even if we cannot shoot down the U.S., we will shoot down all the bases and the allies of U.S. So this is where, see, on international grounds, there are bargaining chips that you have to see. How many chips do you have in your pocket when you sit on the negotiations table? When then you have to say, okay, I've got these many countries, they have this much military, they have these many underground resources, this much economy, these people supporting us, and these technological arms of warfare. Then they say, okay, you know what, it's an open threat. Even if we do not listen to them, then what do we have to lose, and what do they have to offer? So these bargaining chips are being utilized in these sorts of negotiations, these sort of discussions. We have to really be very clever and very wise to evaluate what's going on. And right now, these bargaining chips are in the right hands of Iran, Pakistan, China, Turkey, whoever is joining this bloc. Why I say right hand? Because the other hand is Israel. Israel was utilizing United States. Israel was utilizing NATO through United States and United Kingdom, and now you have noticed that NATO has backed out, United Kingdom has backed out, and
Yeah.
United States is depleting because it's fighting alone this time. So
Yeah.
these bargaining chips are placed at the right moment, and I believe Iran is going to, and the field marshal of Pakistan is going to make the right decisions, and is doing so.
Sure.
So, if we look ahead, what intellectual and societal foundations must be built to enable genuine transformation within the Muslim world? And in this context, what do you expect from the coming generations in their service to Islam? Do you see them emerging as leaders or rivalists or continuing the pattern of the past? And realistically thinking, how urgent is this moment before such opportunities for change begin to slip away and our doomsday begins?
Honestly speaking, I don't see very good things about Muslims in the future ahead, as long as they continue to believe that their upbringing was right, that the interpretation of the religion that they received from their parents and their textbook boards was right. If they continue to believe in this narrative that Quran in Surah Baqarah, the ayah number 79, the tafsir of the Prophet ﷺ says, he himself ﷺ is uh, sharing his tafsir with ashab at that time, Rizwanullahi ajmain. And he's saying that I have a fear that my ummah will also do just like the 79 number ayah explains about Yahud and Nasara, that they will establish parallel books, they will write books of religion, and they will term those books as religion and deviate from the original, and then they will promote that as religion. And the Prophet ﷺ says, I have a fear that my ummah will do the same. So when you have a parallel Judaism, parallel Christianity, and parallel Islam, and then these religious scholars sitting on members of masjid and say, you are going to heaven, and follow what your father say, follow what our madrasa says, follow what our teachers say, follow what the state says. It means there is no future ahead of you. I'm sorry, beta, you're like a daughter to me. I have to tell you that the future ahead, if these things continue, is as dark as the past of our fathers and their fathers. They are also doomed if the future is directed in the same way. But having said that, I would still want a good thing to come out of this conversation. I would suggest what you and I can do, what my daughter and their children can do, is to bring them within this dark period, bring them up financially. See, the thing is, the world has now established a certain norm, a system, and that system, mankind has taken centuries to establish that system. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets after prophets to topple that system and instate it's the system of the Lord. But we, the believers themselves, destroyed that system. We are actually sitting on the rubble of the rubble of the Islamic system, and we think it is uh, it is okay, it is beautiful, and then our children may do something. When you're sitting on the rubble of the demolished state of Islam, then you cannot talk to a person like me and be hopeful about certain things. The only thing I would want you or anybody listening to us to draw out of this conversation in a positive sense is that even if you're doomed, tell your kids to get into power. If you're out of Pakistan, if you're settled in the US, in the UK, or Europe, anywhere, get your children into the parliament, get them into the politics of United States, get them into the politics of United Kingdom, get them into the politics of Europe, and tell them, because this kufriya system of democracy is applied there, and it is more in its true essence in comparison to a system like Pakistan. So tell them to get into power, get in the power corridors. Tell them to become the voice in the parliament where the decisions are made for the third world countries like ours, and the countries like Iran, the countries like Saudi Arabia. When your own children and their next generation would be in the parliaments of United States and United Kingdom, then certain policies will change. Then certain things will go in the favor of what you are aiming for. Otherwise, if I go into a police station, a precinct, a local precinct, and slap the head of that police station, the senior police officer from the in our system, they say the senior superintendent of police, or the DIG, or the deputy inspector general of police, they are going to shoot me down because I got into the weaker portion of their system. They have a stronger hold up front to counter me. So Pakistan is a very small town, precinct, local precinct. The head office of that is run in other power corridors. If your children get into the parliaments of those systems, then I can say that you are looking at 30, 40, 50, 60 years down the lane where your children would be in power to make certain decisions in the favor of the people over here, and then some Muslim perspective will prevail rather than the anti-Muslim or the Islamophobia concepts that you see every now and then.
I do have a follow-up question though. Do you think we still need an era of thinkers? I mean, the youth is taking the center stage right now, but not more than that, because we really need an urgency um, of the current challenges to be made. Like on the ground, leadership should take over, and like there should be more activism rather than thinkers. So, what do you think is like
I'm
the essential discourse?
I am so sorry. I know it's going to again offend most of the people listening to our conversation, but I am not hopeful at all in terms of the youth that I see in Pakistan, particularly. Pakistani youth is very money motivated, very uh, single myopic vision motivated. Pakistani youth is very democracy motivated. Pakistan, which is, these are all non-Islamic concepts, be it the material gain, be it democracy itself, or be it being myopic in vision. So I do not see Pakistani youth any you tell me a name. Give me a name of the Pakistani youth. In our era, I can give you names of people of when we were young. There were people showing their signs even as youth. I do not see a single name coming in public in good books other than some dancers or actors or performers or jokers, clowns. There. I don't see good things currently. Okay, being hopeful, being an optimistic Muslim, and having tawakkul, I can say that yeah, things can happen. But visibly, I see a Pakistani youth in a very uh, myopic, and they seem to be very settled with that, very content with that. This is why I don't address youths normally. I talk to people who are mid-aged and who are thinkers, have vision. I sit with those people. I tend to address those people. My audience is always those people. I don't talk to youths. Firstly, their nourishment, their upbringing is so poor that they are very. They have an attitude problem. They do not know how to address their elders. They do not know how the norms of arguments and debates. They have foul language, they have foul dressing, they have everything is wrong. This youth that I get to see of this current 20s, currently the people in 20s and early 30s, they're trash. They're literally trash. I would not even want to associate myself with this youth.
Thank you, sir. In fact, I say thank you with a pinch of salt because I think that's obviously a factual position that you've taken. Conscious of time, so I think we should move towards concluding our very useful and discursive discussion today. Um, I think as a whole, we have today in the session, and I appreciate this is your first interaction with us in the IMS non-Pakistani community. So we live in the West, and our problems are much more serious than the problems that perhaps people in Pakistan have in terms of, whether you say Fatiha aloud or not, and whatnot. So I think to perhaps move towards wrapping up the discussion, the end question is always, what shall we do? And I think that's a very general question. But in your talk today, you have given us a few things. And although, frankly speaking, a lot of it is depressive, but it's not depressive coming from your side. It is the factual position, and it is because we are not Muslims as we should be. So we need to level up our standards. Uh, One of the things which often people ask is that the change that is required to move in the right direction, it's not going to come from the top leadership. It's not going to come from the leadership as we have today, whether in one country or the entire block of Muslim countries as it is. So things have to work from ground up, and people have to change things individually for the effective change at the top to come about in the future. I think one point which we can take away from the advice that you've given us to people who are living in the West, which is what our community is that we can at least try and empower our future, our youth, or maybe even ourselves, and get into positions of power, whether that's political or financial or moral. And that is something we can do individually to move in the right direction. And hopefully that is the message that you are giving away today.
That is, yeah, one side of the message. The other thing that between the lines that I've tried to send across is that what is wrong with the youth? Why are they behaving like animals? You And I'm not just saying that. You open any educated man's lecture right now, as we speak. Open a YouTube or any social media handle. Open a sensible man's talk about religion or about politics, and notice the upbringing of the youth in the comments. I don't know what mothers these mothers are who are raising such foul kids. I don't know what fathers these fathers are who have no norms, no concept uh, of respect. They use abusive language even if you object the leader that they so-called leaders that they follow, or the scholars that they follow, or the celebrities that they follow. If you criticize anything on the basis of certain material content, or a dalil, as we say, or something of Quran or of hadith that you second with, and but the whole blood lineage of the youth will appear right there and then, and show how ugly these fathers are, these mothers are, who have brought up these children and thrown them in the public to viciously attack people like wild animals. So my second message that comes out of our conversation is that do not become like your parents when you are a parent. Your parents have done a very bad job in making this kind of a youth out of this current youth. Your parents failed religiously, your parents failed morally, your parents failed politically, your parents died a nobody. In masajid, there had to be alan made, announcements made, that come for his janaza because you would not recognize him, so we would give you certain marks of recognition. Come. They died nobodies. They were not heroes of the nation. They were not scholarly, some huge big names. They had no contributions to education. They had no contributions to politics, religion. They were nobodies. Do not raise nobodies. I want you to raise celebrities of religion, celebrities of politics, celebrities of sports, celebrities of anything, but not ordinary masses. Do not raise your children like your parents raised you. A. And B, if your parents are alive, grab them before they die. Sit them down on a cup of coffee and say, define a moment, define Islam, define and explain how are you managing to escape life and cheat life and die, and assume that you might not be asked questions of the demise of Islam that took place, which Quran is talking about, which Hadith is talking about, which history is talking about. What sort of Islam have you been teaching us? Sit them down today and do not let them sleep with peace. In Quran, Allah Ta'ala says, and Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, go to them, send them the message, the very message that would shake their souls. So do that to your parents and see if they have a soul left in them, and that they answer your questions and they're ashamed, and then they bow before the Lord and apologize that what have we done? We never told them that this is what never supposed to be Islam. Islam is not creating properties and telling your children that, okay, I'm leaving this sort of inheritance to you, distribute among your brothers and sisters and make business out of that. No. And when you say depressive, let me tell you something, brother. Quran has a whole depressive tone about Bani Israel. That Bani Israel Bani Israel did that, Bani Israel desecrated prophets, Bani Israel desecrated the book, the word of the Lord. Then Quran says, you are doing the same to my prophet, Rahmatullah Alameen. Quran keeps on saying to people, do not bring him through Shayb Abi Talib. Do not throw stones upon him in Taif. Do not do this. And once he dies, he's saying, take care of my family. And we butcher his family. And then we kill hundreds of thousands of companions of the prophet. What sort of Islam are you talking about? Islam is only depression. Why? Because this world over here is just a pathway to the world, the life which awaits us. This has to be depressing. This is where we're supposed to lay our lives and die so that we can reappear in the actual life and live a very happy eternity. I don't know what sort of message you were expecting, asking me that I'm going to say, oh, good things. No, read Jummah prayers and perform Hajj, offer what do you call zakat, and fast and go to heaven, and watch TV, watch TikTok, make dancing videos on TikToks, watch the celebrities act. No, I'm sorry. Islam is depressive. Welcome to Islam. Islam is very depressive. Islam says, the daughter of the Prophet used to go to the tomb of the Prophet, the Bibi Fatma Zahra Salamullah alayhi. She used to cry for hours. That why, what have you left? Where have you left me alone? What sort of world have you left me at? Maula Ali used to go to the grave and cry that I wish I was not born in this time when I have to fight my own Muslim people. What, which prophet, which son of prophet, which companion of prophet can you say? Tell me one thing. Bring out one story where Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu went on a recreation trip and went out of town and shot some deers or enjoyed some meal on a beach or on a mountain on going to the north areas on some heavy horses, not bikes. If then there is no recreation Islam. There is no happiness Islam. The only happiness lies in the happiness of the Lord Almighty. And you have to sacrifice. See, Islam means submission. I have to put handcuffs and shackles on my feet and say, I am your slave, my Lord. My will is surrendered to you. If you do not want Islam, then at least be brave and honest enough to say we don't want it. We want some happiness. We want some joy. We want some entertainment. I can give you entertainment. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I write songs. I play guitars. I play piano. I play percussion. I can play music for you if you want entertainment. But if you want religion, my friend, if you want to talk about Islam, when you say IMS, then you have to be honest to yourself or change the name of IMS into something, some flashy thing of some sort of an entertainment area. For this should not be IMS if you're expecting something non-depressive. Islam is depression. Islam is only the history of Islam is also depression. But why do you think depression is bad? The actual happiness awaits if you accept this depression and get out of this life, because this life is an alarm clock. If I live for 56, 60 years, it means I in Alam Arwa, where I was planning to come, making promises, misaks, contracts. I said, give me this much life at least so that I can acquire Shahada and come before that. Or over here, people are saying, no, I want you to live for long. I hope I live for long. Give me some regeneration stem cell technology so that I can live for long. No, we were supposed to die before our time, take an exit, and go and live forever. That is where happiness is. This is not a place for happiness. I'm sorry. This is my second message.
Indeed. Indeed, no, and I think that's absolutely fine, and we have no offense in taking that. And this comes back to where you started, that the concept people generally have is we just do things to get to Jannah. That's not the purpose of this life, because the purpose of life is what you've just described in your words there. So the depressive side of the reality is there, it's a fact, and we have to absorb that in. So conscious of time, I think we had a very good round discussion, and this was our first event with yourselves. So inshallah, we look forward to more of these with you in the future. Today, I think we have talked about a breadth of topics. We have spoken about civilizations as a whole, your own development of intellectualism and how your thinking works. We have discussed things about the current affairs. We have spoken about the Muslim Ummah. We spoke about the Shawshank Redemption and that the fact that this is not a Shawshank Redemption. You have obviously given us some insight into how you see things with reference to Surah Anfal, ayah number 115, where if you do go away from the path of Allah, your destination is Sa'at Masira, which is, if people understand, an utterly deplorable place to be in. And we indeed finish off with a couple of suggestions from yourself that we must empower ourselves individually, and we must question our elder generation, what they have done. So at least it gives us some introspection on where we stand. So I think that was a very good discussion, and hopefully we can continue with these sessions going forward, if indeed your team allows us to do so. We in the IMS, we live in the West. So a lot of the problems we face are the real world problems, outside of mosques and whatnot. So hopefully we can bring to your platform issues that the real issues people face on Islam as Muslims and generally as humans, and we can actually gain your wisdom and insight on those going forward. So I think with that note, we would very much, all of us, like to thank you for your time. Thank you for your frank comments, and none offense taken, none at all. In fact, we do appreciate, straightforward conversations. And we look forward to, inshallah, seeing you again, hopefully, on a session, but if possible and if preferable, whenever you come to the UK or any of the countries in Europe or the US, we would love to have you here.
I thank you. I thank you very much for your patience because it is very difficult to tolerate a person like me. I know how difficult it is to tolerate me at home for the people who suffer because of the philosophies and concepts that I have. So it is difficult, and as I said, uh, it is time. I mean, if today, if my daughter comes up to me and sits me down and starts to ask me questions, I swear I would be very proud of my daughter. So all daughters today who are listening to me, you if you sit your father down and ask him straight up very simple questions of definitions of Islam and even politics and the system, your fathers would be proud of you. And if they're not proud of you, then it's a clear indication that your fathers were never good fathers to begin with. They could have been very good brothers, daughters, very good citizens, but they were not good fathers if they cannot tolerate a question coming from a daughter. But anyway, I thank you very much. I thank you for your for the invitation to have me on this session with you. It is an honor always to sit among people who have inspirations and aspirations. Yeah, it's indeed a privilege that I ended up meeting IMS people for the first time. I've been listening to very good things about people also in Pakistan and now UK IMS, and I look forward to other discussions also. Maybe probably on certain topics where there could be room for a lighter note discussions where there's no, because when you say IMS, when you say Islam, and there every question of yours had some sort of a connotation of religion. That is why I was trying to give you the strongest basis that Quran has to say, other than the ahadith that support. So if maybe on other topics where we discuss, where I could probably have some lighter things to say, I would really be very happy again to be useful in any part, in any way on your journeys and on the journey of IMS. And as I said, as a student of political science, as a student of comparative religions and philosophy, I would make myself available whenever required, and if I can be of any value to anybody, that would be my utmost duty.
Inshallah, Ziryab bhai, thank you very much. And we have a lot of topics to pick your brain about, inshallah, in the future. Thank you very much for today, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum.